Vietnam is a land of rich heritage. 14 elements of Vietnamese heritage have been recognized by UNESCO as World Heritage, Intangible Cultural Heritage, or Memories of the World. But much of the work in preservation of this heritage during a period of socio-economic development is due to the works of a foreigner, Catherine Mary.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Talk Vietnam. Our guest for today's show is Ms. Catherine Muller-Marine. She's the representative of UNESCO to Vietnam, and we're lucky enough to have her in our studio today. So please join me in welcoming Catherine. Hi, Catherine.
Hello.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
How are you today?
Fine. Actually, very happy to be here and take a little bit of a rest from all the work we've had this past weeks.
I'm sure you have a very busy schedule. We really appreciate your being here.
Thank
and
you.
You look absolutely amazing in the Áo Dài.
Thank you very much.
And
it's a lovely Áo Dài. Yes.
Yes, I've noticed that here in Vietnam you have the Áo Dài on a lot. It must be kind of a favorite dress now.
Well, actually, it is very comfortable. It helps me to blend in with the culture, helps me to understand the people better. And actually, I mean, just look at this amazing work.
Gorgeous.
It's beautiful. It is amazing,
Beautiful
right?
embroidered
Yes.
work.
I got this from the designer Nguoi, and she has a group of people who do a lot of embroidery. So I really like the colors, and also this represents the old quarter. So
Yep.
yes, very nice.
It's beautiful. And we'll talk more about Áo Dài and your love for Áo Dài a little bit later in the show. But first of all, let's talk a little bit about your position here, being here in Vietnam, your work. You are the representative of UNESCO to Vietnam. Can you explain a little bit about your job and what you're doing here in Vietnam?
Well, actually, representing UNESCO is a pretty easy job in this country. Easy in the sense that Vietnam understands UNESCO, knows how to use UNESCO's potential, because we're an agency that really is constituted by the different countries. So the different countries are our governing board, and we try to do the work that is needed based on what the country requires from us. We have here 5 sectors in which we work in all 5 sectors, and most important, we're part of the United Nations team in Vietnam. So being a representative here has meant a lot to me in terms of learning about this beautiful culture, and in terms of being able to give something to the Vietnamese people who are so hardworking and who've done a lot to show the international world how they have overcome their difficulties.
Born in Costa Rica to German parents, Catherine Muller-Marine used to be an English teacher. She has postgraduate training in competitive enterprise management and a master's degree in education. For over 30 years, she has been working in the field of technical and financial assistance to developing countries with different donors and cooperating agencies in Tajikistan and Peru. Based in Vietnam since late 2009 as the UNESCO representative, Catherine is responsible for work in 5 areas: education, culture, communications and information, social sciences, and natural sciences. She is able to travel to various corners across Vietnam and thus develop a bonding with the country. Catherine admits that coming to work in Vietnam was the best decision she has ever made.
How do you find working in Vietnam? You said it's an easy place to be a UNESCO representative. Vietnam is a land full of cultural heritages and a long-standing history. So how do you find it?
Well, first of all, it keeps me very busy. We have activities almost every single weekend, and it's sitting there and watching festivals and watching how the music develops and how the different types of exhibits of the crafts, and going to the villages and also going to the biosphere reserves, being able to go to the different schools. It really is a big space of work that we have here. And I think we have very important programs also, especially targeting, poverty reduction and assisting the government in those specific areas where we find that the UN and UNESCO have a very special place to work in. So it is very fulfilling. I can tell you, I feel very satisfied. I feel that what we do is something that is required, it is needed, and you can feel the retribution. So yes, I can say that I'm very happy to be here and very pleased to be able to work here.
Wonderful.
I have a wonderful team as well at UNESCO.
Awesome. And you've talked about the different kind of sectors and fields where UNESCO and you work in. Let's talk a little bit about the field of cultural preservation here in Vietnam. What are some of the challenges working in that field here in Vietnam?
Well, you see, UNESCO has a global role in protecting history, in protecting heritage, and especially in protecting culture as the identity of the people. And in that sense, globalization starts taking over and starts having its effects. And Vietnam is just the Ao Dai. When you see an Ao Dai, you know that is Vietnam,
exactly.
Right? When you see the rice field, you know it's Vietnam. So there's so many things about Vietnam that the world knows, and that we need to make sure that these are protected and kept for the future generations. It is about remembering where we come from and where we go to. So our role in UNESCO is making sure that these sites are covered by responsibility, by people who are caring for it, who are making sure that they're protected, but also that they're adequately used, because people live there and they've been living there for generations. So in that sense, I think our role is important, and we work not only in tangible heritage, but also intangible heritage, intangible culture.
Vietnam currently possesses, until now, in 2011, possesses 14 natural and cultural heritage, all recognized by UNESCO, both tangible and intangible. Have you been able to visit all of these sites?
Almost all, yes.
Wow, wonderful.
I've been all the way from Ha Giang all the way down to Kiên Giang, to Cao Mau, Vung Tau, Cat Tien, and we've been able to visit the different sites, and I think it's important to be there, to live them, because they're all so different, And actually, if you talk about sites, we have different types of sites as well, We have the sites for biodiversity, which are the biosphere reserves. We have the geopark, which is geoheritage in Dom Van, yes, up in the north. And then we have the World Heritage Sites. And as you said, we have both cultural and natural. So visiting them has helped me also to better understand them and to better know what their needs are, and how we as a representative of UNESCO can better support, in helping in training for the management plans, and in identifying the very specific needs that they have. And we have quite a bit of programs supporting each one of these locations.
Wonderful. So it must have been a lot of travel, I'm sure, throughout the 14 sites, almost all of them. What kind of impressed you the most? Any kind of stories that stick to mind throughout these trips?
Ooh, too many stories.
If you had to name one.
If I had to name one, I think the visit to Nguoi Anh impressed me quite a bit because of the historic relationship with Ho Chi Minh.
Yes, Nguoi Anh. Yes. That's the hometown of Ho Chi Minh.
The hometown of Ho Chi Minh, exactly. And when we went to visit the Biosphere Reserve, we also went to visit his original town. Yes. And also his parents' home, and learn about the history, how they met, and very, very interesting. But also to see how people are so linked to this history still, and how people really need to feel this leader still there, And so I also was impressed by the research I did on how he promoted the biodiversity and the protection of biodiversity, and how this is linked. So I'm very happy that this Biosphere Reserve got recognized, and that now it's bringing benefit to the local communities as well.
Now, I have a list of the cultural and natural heritages here recognized by UNESCO, and I know you've been able to kind of do a lot of research on each of them. So, but just for our audiences out here at home and also in the studio here, I'm going to list them, and if you can kind of give me an adjective or a short description of what you think each sites mean to you.
Okay.
So let's start. First, the complex of Hue monuments.
Oh, I would say timeless.
Hạ Long Bay.
Well, apart from being majestic, it's also vivacious, It's got this energy in it.
The Hội An ancient town.
Oh, Hoi An is colorful.
The lanterns.
Yes, I think of shopping in Hoi An. Ancient, yes.
Mỹ Sơn Sanctuary.
Spiritual. Yes.
Phong Nha Kẻ Bàng National Park.
Wow, Phong Nha Kẻ Bàng is, I would say it's mysterious. And one of the things that was very interesting to me about Phong Nha Kẻ Bàng was to know that it's not only just a cave, but it is also a site where during the war, they were able to set up a hospital within those caves.
Oh, wow.
And the soldiers were able to be protected there because the caves could not be seen from above, you know.
There's a sense of...
Yeah, it's quite mysterious.
There's a sense of a historical link
Yes,
there as
definitely,
well. The Nhã Nhạc, or Vietnamese court music, is an intangible heritage.
When I think of Nhã Nhạc, I think of majestic.
Now the space of gong culture, this has more to do with the Central Highlands.
Yes, it's grandiose. The way they have been able to make music out of the gongs and how it relates to each one of the rituals that they celebrate is very interesting. Yes.
More into the music now, the Quan Họ Bắc Ninh folk songs, the duet love songs of the northern region of Vietnam.
Oh, that brings to my mind the word romantic. It's a lot of, you know, it's very special emotions. And when I've heard these songs, I always have someone translate a little bit what they're singing about. And it's worth knowing what the words are.
Ca Chu singing.
Ca Chu. I think about elegant. Yes, the way they dress and the way they behave and the way they play, it's all so like synchronized, so careful, so gentle.
Yeah. Back to cultural heritage now, the central sector of the Imperial.
I can think of two words. I can think of soulful, I can think of power. The big decisions that were made in that location, yes.
Yes, and this is at the Imperial Citadel of Thăng Long, Hanoi. How about the Song Festival of Udon and Sok temples?
Oh, wow. Vibrant, very energetic, definitely, yes.
Festival.
Yes.
A lot of atmosphere in there. The Stone Sali records of royal examinations of the Lê and Mac dynasties here in Hanoi,
Yes.
Văn Miếu.
I can think of a word, scholarly, you know, academic, yes.
The Đồng Văn Karst Geopark in Hà Giang.
That's spectacular. Have you been there?
No, I haven't.
You have to go.
The pictures alone look
Yes.
amazing.
It's spectacular. It really is. It is worth going, especially if you're standing there at 5 o'clock in the morning, facing those mountains with the mist, the cold weather. It's amazing. It's spectacular. Yes.
And it also hosts a big population of ethnic
minorities. Yes. Yes.
It's rich culture as well. The citadel of the Hồ Dynasty in Thanh Hóa.
When I think of the citadel, I think of, you know, steadfast, firm throughout so many years.
And that was our list of 14 heritages. How difficult is it to kind of prepare all the documents for the different heritages to be recognized by UNESCO? It's something that Vietnam really pushes for.
Yes, actually, each one of the different nominations is very different from the other. So when you're talking about World Heritage Site, there is, you know, an intergovernmental committee with different countries that makes the final decisions. The same happens for intangible culture, but it is a different committee. The same thing happens for Memory of the World. It is a different group of people. Same thing happens for Biosphere Reserves. We have the Man in Biosphere Committee, and there's a secretariat. So you have each one has a different procedure, but I would say the most common issue among all these is, number one, that the country has to show what the outstanding universal value is. What is so special about this element that is being recognized, or this site that is being recognized? How is the country committing to the preservation? There's a lot of research going on, For example, for a World Heritage Site, a nomination file can take over a year to be prepared. The Vietnam Academy of Social Sciences and other institutes are participating quite a bit in doing this research to show, for example, if something is historic, how do you prove the validity of what is being presented? This gets sent then to different programs within UNESCO as Secretariat, who check that all the items are correctly presented.
Exactly.
And for example, in relation to biosphere reserves and World Heritage Sites, we also need the agreement of the local community. So there have to be workshops with the local community, and the local community has to sign the agreement that they want the site nominated. Then the different international groups are the ones who make the final decisions. In the case of the heritage sites, UNESCO invites independent institutes who come and do their research. I've tried to make one single explanation, but each procedure is a different procedure. It is not something that is easy to do.
As part of the United Nations team, Catherine is committed to assisting Vietnam in UNESCO's 5 sectors: education, culture, communications and information, social sciences, and natural sciences. Protecting heritage is high on the list of priorities. Thus, UNESCO has been a close partner with the Vietnam National Commission for UNESCO and the various ministries and institutions.
Trong những năm vừa qua, sự hợp tác giữa Ủy ban UNESCO Quốc gia Việt Nam với Văn phòng đại diện UNESCO tại Hà Nội nó rất chất lượng, nó đảm bảo cái tính khoa học, nó đảm bảo cái tính quốc tế, nó đảm bảo cái tính liên kết giữa một tổ chức văn hóa khoa học, giáo dục thế giới của Liên Hợp Quốc rất là có uy tín với lại một đất nước như đất nước Việt Nam chúng ta có hàng ngàn năm văn hiến.
Achieving UNESCO recognition is not an easy process, but what's more important is the preservation that follows. Based on the needs of the country, Catherine and her colleagues in the UNESCO office are the driving force to develop programs providing intellectual assistance, development policies, and capacity building and strengthening. And the respect Vietnamese have for UNESCO has made Catherine's demanding job a lot easier.
Vietnamese authorities and Vietnamese people are highly appreciating our cooperation in the cultural heritage. The development of UNESCO heritage sites in Vietnam also promotes the cultural tourism in your country, and it brings also more values to the society.
For Catherine, UNESCO's broad scope of elements, which are related to people in an intensely cultural country, provide the perfect conditions for her to perform, and therefore she can devote all her efforts to bringing assets of this agency to the country. As she says, UNESCO belongs to Vietnam.
What should Vietnam do in order to kind of fully take advantage of all of these titles, the so far 14 titles that we've been able to gain?
I think Vietnam knows what has to be done. These sites have brought a lot of income to the country. They have generated a lot of tourism. And I see that there is a big effort to try to make sure that the management boards are caring for the sites and are protecting them. And I think with the work that we're doing together, we're working on how to plan better for tourism, because you cannot exaggerate. Too much tourism may destroy a site, so you need to make sure that you have the certain amount of tourists that come to the site, but that you can guarantee that the site will continue be able to be used. We also need to make sure that the people who lived in that site, people who were, for example, living in Ha Giang in the geopark, they need to continue living there. They need to continue making a living there. So we're working very hard on all these processes. We have research going on. We have different technical assistance going on supporting the country. But I would say that the leadership of the nominations is with the Vietnam National Commission for UNESCO. They're the ones who really provide the technical orientation on how to present these nominations. And with them we have teamed up. We work very, very close together. We have a new Secretary General for the National Commission with whom we've bonded very well. And we have good plans for the upcoming years to really continue working together for these sites.
Exactly. Now, being able to kind of visit the sites yourself and being able to see how the local people, how they're working with the sites, what do you judge of the efforts of the local people in working with their preservation of the heritage in which they're living?
Well, you know, I have been quite happy to see also that the line ministries are being also very responsive to this process. So, for example, when the Kwanhon, the Kachu, was recognized, the Minister of Culture already declared some funds and some activities to be carried out with the local communities to ensure continuation, you know, education of the younger generations, research, preservation. So we see also that the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment is also very concerned, for example, in the protection of Hazan, the geopark. So that is already an asset. And then when you go down to the People's Committee, you can already see how they're really trying to bring programs to these different populations. We also need to work the other way around. We need to hear these local communities and see what their needs are. You know, they used to, for example, practice on using some sort of plants or trees or things which they may have to start using in a different way because they may be destroying them for the longer term. So we need to help them on how to be able to use them and at the same time be able to replace or continue with whatever they're using. We also see programs like bringing the branding of products, for example, to the Biosphere Reserve, the branding of the honey, the branding of the services. That is also another type of income that is not only resulting from tourism. Lots of environmental education for the local communities. We have a project in which we're helping these local communities to make sure that their crafts are original and that they keep the original designs so that we can make sure that Vietnam keeps this uniqueness.
What do you think are some of the pressing issues in terms of cultural preservation here in Vietnam?
Well, first of all, I would like to say that I can see that there is there's a lot of consciousness in the government and the local authorities. We need now to have the whole population be part of this. All of Vietnam needs to be part of it. They need to protect the sites. They need to be able to visit them, but at the same time make sure that they're caring for these sites. As UNESCO, we're trying to promote a campaign to eliminate all sorts of garbage and pollution in these sites. And I think we need everybody to be part of it. And also, you know, to help us to protect, for example, you know, when you think about the Nguoi monkeys up in Cat Ba, in Biosphere Reserve, and you think that they only exist, the only place in the world where they exist is in Cat Ba. And there's only like 60 more monkeys left. And so, you know, now the whole Cat Ba Biosphere Reserve and the island is really conscious of protecting them. We need to make everyone in Vietnam know that they have this precious jewel there and that everybody needs to contribute to that protection. So I think one of the most pressing issues right now is to make sure that we have the whole population conscious of how valuable, what gifts they have, and how they need to ensure that these gifts go throughout generations.
In a recent working trip to the Cat Ba archipelago, Catherine paid a visit to the farm of VNtienganh, a local resident in Xuân Đam district. Cultivating this land since it was uninhabited, Ching now has 5.7 hectares of agriculture and forest land to generate income for the family. Natural honey, one of the many specialties in his garden, has been given the Cat Ba Archipelago Biosphere Reserve label due to its excellent quality.
Vườn quốc gia Cat Ba là được thế giới công nhận là một trong những khu dự trữ sinh quyển. Thì gia đình nhà tôi cũng mong muốn là sản phẩm của mình nó cũng gắn liền với lại cái khu dự trữ sinh quyển, và sau này mình phải khẳng định cái chất lượng cho nó làm sao đó để đảm bảo cho người tiêu dùng người ta biết đến và người ta tin tưởng sử dụng cái sản phẩm của mình.
Witnessing the benefits brought about by the branding to local community, Catherine found that this was a good chance for her to understand the situation and develop a better way of promoting the use of the brand.
It's good to be able to talk to them and to also understand how they see that they benefit from the branding. What are the areas that they feel that we need to follow up on? All that is still in process of discussion, but at least we during this trip we were made aware of many of these issues, and there's a will of the authorities to discuss and to try to find solutions, yes.
In order to achieve this certification, existing sustainable non-polluting economic models have to meet standards of quality, which are internationally known as ISO 14000 and ISO 9000. With the support of UNESCO's Man and Biosphere Committee, the local authority is determined to make this come true.
Khi mà có cái mô hình kinh tế ở cái viên đệm này để mà thúc đẩy cái việc này thì người dân có cái đời sống xóa đói giảm nghèo, có cái đời sống thì giảm thiểu cái việc tác động cái môi trường trong vùng nõi. Thì đây là cái đã được các nhà khoa học cũng như là các cái cơ quan quản lý đầu tư quan tâm, và cái mô hình này chúng tôi đang tiếp tục được nhân rộng cho các cái khu các xã vùng đệm.
Other successful branding models in Cat Ba also include agricultural produce such as fish sauce, chicken, oranges, safe vegetables and fruit, as well as green hotels, transport services and ecotourism. Once the use of the brand is systematized, biodiversity conservation and sustainable development are sure to go along mutually supportive paths.
We've just seen in this clip here your short visit to Cat Ba Island, the Biosphere Reserve. Can you talk a little bit about this trip? What do you think about the situation here?
Cat Ba is one of the biosphere reserves, or 8 biosphere reserves in Vietnam. For UNESCO, the biosphere reserves are very, very important because it is about protecting biodiversity. Of course, it is also protecting culture because you help protect the local communities that live there. But biodiversity needs to be protected. And I think Cat Ba is an interesting example of how a small island has become the target of so much tourism, over 1 million tourists a year coming just to Cat Ba, and how it is trying to cope with this amount of tourists that's coming to the island, and how many beautiful things it has to show. There's a lot of people who I know that love to go to Cat Ba to see the fishing, to do fishing, just to sit at the beach. I think one of the things when I think of Cat Ba, I think, like as I mentioned before, of the langurs, the need to protect the monkeys.
There's also the national park there.
Yes, the national park. Yes, it's a site that has a combination of so many things. It has the beach, it has the forest, it has the animals. It's got a combination of a lot of things. So I like to visit Cat Ba, and I hope that we all commit to protect Cat Ba. Yes, definitely.
Kind of keep the tourism to kind of a balance in order to preserve.
There has to be a balance. Yes, definitely.
How about the people living there? You mentioned earlier that they've been able to kind of brand their products.
Yes.
After the recognition of the biosphere.
Yes, actually, I visited several of the local people who have received these recognitions for the branding. I think what's important to mention about the branding is that it's done against international standards. They're using the ISO 9000 and ISO 14000, and that is important because it's comparing to international standards. Wonderful. The quality of the product. I see that there's a lot of creativity in trying to identify products and being very careful about the quality. You know, when you go see the quality of the honey there, it's amazing. It's just amazing. The quality of the oranges, the quality of the lodges that have been able to receive these recognitions. So I think it's about raising standards. You know, you want maybe not so many tourists, but you want tourists of a higher quality. Tourists who come back often. Tourists who are careful about the location, that they care for it, you know, that participate in that responsibility. So I think Cat Ba is trying to do that, trying to show how they're doing that. We also have an important program with youth, with youngsters. They have amazing projects there, and we just recently gave some certificates, so you can see how the young generation is very committed to protect and also to participate actively, because participation of the community is fundamental.
Exactly.
Catherine has a close connection with the host country. All her family members, including her husband, her 3 sons, and the in-laws, have already visited Vietnam, her home away from home. Catherine's husband is the biggest supporter. He follows her everywhere she goes. blends in easily in festivals and events she participates in. Also, her 3 sons are a great encouragement for her job in Vietnam. For Catherine, each souvenir she found in different areas adorns the so-called Vietnam corner in her house. She considers every item a token to recollect the good memories of her trips across Vietnam. During her stay in Vietnam, Catherine has a chance to travel from the further north of Hà Giang province to the further south of Cà Mau and all the way along the coast. Each area has engraved an unforgettable footprint in her heart.
When I was given an opportunity to choose the country that I would be appointed to, I immediately went for Vietnam. First because I had heard so many beautiful things about this country. I was interested in seeing, meeting the people who had overcome such many years of hardship and had turned this country around into a prosperous country. Natural, right? Natural. I think what has maybe impressed me the most is how different Vietnam is from one province to the other, and how many beautiful issues you can see in this country, how many beautiful areas. And then, the different musics, the different the different dresses. It's just like a colorful painting that never stops moving. It keeps, growing and keeps moving and keeps re-energizing itself.
So we just saw in the clip that your husband, as well as your 3 sons, and your in-laws have been able to visit Vietnam. What do they think?
Well, it was very important for my family to visit Vietnam because I wanted them to see what a beautiful place it is and how happy we are living here. And because, we're far away. We're exactly on the other side of the world. And they always said, why can't you come work closer, live closer to us, And I wanted them to understand the reasons of why I want to stay longer in this country. And now that they have all come, they clearly understand it. We had very intense visit, intense because we had so much to show them, so much to see, and such wonderful friends, Our friends were so open, so heartfelt with my family. They were taken in immediately.
I heard that you have a Vietnam corner in your house.
Yes. Well, actually, I think it's more than one corner, because we made a decision when we moved here that we wouldn't bring furniture. We wanted to buy all our furniture here in Vietnam, which we have done now. But we also have a memory corner. Wherever I travel, I collect little items. We have a lot of the water puppets, which I just simply adore. I just love the water puppets. I love how they communicate and what they represent, the stories that they represent. We have, I love to go to Bà Chăn.
Bà Chăn, the
yes,
ceramic
it's terrible.
village.
Every time I go to Bà Chăn, I come with overweight, But these are all things that are very special from Vietnam, and I'm hoping that whenever I retire and I am back home, that I can have, part of my house will be very Vietnamese.
Now, I understand that you also brought something from your home here today to share with the audiences here as well as at home. So, can you show us?
Yes, actually, I wanted to share these, scarves, which I bought them in Nguoi in the Biosphere Reserve, and if you see them, it's amazing the quality of the work that has been done. I mean, and I don't think a lot of people really know of these scarves. I really haven't seen many places in Hanoi where they would sell this.
Wow!
And look at the quality. I mean, look at the work.
That's beautiful.
And you can see it's still rustic. It's
Yes, I love the feel of the fabric.
It is. It's.
And this is made by the
local communities.
the
yes,
local
this
people.
is Thai.
The Thai.
The Thai.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And
the patterns are also
the
very
patterns
nice.
are beautiful. The colors, I like the colors very much because obviously they use very natural. So when I went to visit this biosphere reserve, these are places where a lot of tourists don't necessarily go yet. And so the local communities are, you know, when they saw me coming to visit them, they were just so warm, just so amazingly warm. You felt that they really wanted you to be there, you know, and to show you everything they knew. So they had a lot of dances. I danced with them, and they showed me how to use, you know, the
loom.
and so I was able to also go inside the houses and see how they live, and you know, when we think of these people, we always tend to think that they are poor. Not all of them feel that way. They have a different lifestyle. They don't necessarily need to live the way we live.
Exactly.
And I see that the important thing is if they're happy and if they have enough resources to go on. But they don't need to have everything that we have. And I think they should be able to keep that way of lifestyle as well. And you can see how happy they are to be working on these things, the amount of work they put into it, and how pleased they are when somebody comes and buys it from them, directly from them, you know?
I thought in the beginning, we talked about your beautiful gown that you have on here, the traditional áo dài of Vietnam. And I understand that you also have a collection of áo dài.
Oh, God, yes, I do.
How many?
I'm not going to tell you the number, but it's a lot. It's a lot. I have different types of áo dài. Áo dài for the summer, áo dài for the winter, áo dài for different parties. I've found that it really helps me a lot to blend in, but it's also very comfortable, you know. And so, and it's just they're just all so beautiful. If I could, I would have them all.
It's wonderful to see, you know, an expat living here in the country and coming to each of the events as we've seen you, as I've seen you, always in and outside, and it's just wonderful.
Actually, when I wear something else, sometimes people say, "What happened to you? Why aren't you wearing an áo dài?"
Now you're known as the áo dài lady.
I don't have enough yet to go every day with an áo dài, but
not every day.
Soon. Very good to see you again, my good friend.
One of the best friends of Catherine is Lan Hương, a famous áo dài designer in Hanoi.
Qua cái đợt đại lễ nghìn năm Thăng Long thì tôi đã được gặp gỡ cũng như là được tiếp xúc và làm việc nhiều với bà Catherine trong một số chương trình, thì tôi mới hiểu rằng để mà sống được với một dân tộc và làm việc và cống hiến cho một dân tộc thì hơn ai hết là phải hiểu cái tâm hồn cũng như là về cái văn hóa mặc. Bởi vì bà Catherine cũng là một phụ nữ như bao người phụ nữ khác trên thế giới. Khi tìm hiểu Việt Nam thì thường là bà rất mong muốn tôn vinh được cái nét đẹp cũng như là cái văn hóa mặc của người phụ nữ Việt Nam.
You see what I really like about it? First, the color. It's a beautiful color, but most of all, it's the embroidery. I mean, look at this. Isn't this art? Yes. This is just amazing.
Khi mà có dịp để thiết kế cho bà Catherine thì tôi đã lựa chọn chính cái hình ảnh phố cổ Hà Nội, nơi bà Catherine đã được sống, làm việc và cống hiến ở tại Việt Nam, để cũng như là một kỷ niệm của bà đối với một cái kinh thành Thăng Long nghìn năm tuổi.
Little by little, the bonding between two women of two different nationalities is being cultivated.
Now, people often see wearing áo dài as something kind of in ceremonies and stuff, and there have been people who say, you know, there's this sense of femininity and very graceful about the áo dài. But there has been a quote that says, outside it might be silk, but inside it's actually steel. What do you think of that?
Well, you know, when you say that, it brings to my mind that the Vietnamese woman is very stylish, wearing the áo dài. But the Vietnamese woman is a woman who has endured hard times, who is very hardworking, and who has overcome these hard times. And I think that quote represents more or less that feeling, you know. Inside steel, very strong, very capable, very enduring, hardworking, and outside, you know, the soft style, the soft, how can I say, the figure, very nice and blending and gentle and very caring. So it balancing these two is not an easy thing, and I think that the Vietnamese woman has managed to do that.
Yeah, a very overall figure. Yes. Definitely. Yeah. Do you think áo dài being such a unique and kind of identity of Vietnam, wherever you see the áo dài in the world, you think Vietnam. Do you think it might be considered a traditional heritage, or maybe someday?
Well, if it was, I'd be the first one to vote for it if I could. But actually, you know, I think that it all depends on how you present it, because when you present intangible culture, some of it has to do with the dressing, but it also has to do with the history.
Yes.
It also has to do with the culture.
How it links.
Yeah, how it links. It has to do with traditions, and the good thing about the áo dài is that it's about traditions, but it's also about modernity. You can find all sorts of colors and styles, and it's still an áo dài. So why not? Why not? Somebody may end up presenting it one of these days.
So think about it.
Yeah.
Well, everyone out there, think about presenting the áo dài to become a World Heritage, because that would be awesome. The last question for you now. We talked a lot about cultural preservation today, and how, you know, you talked in some instances how the youths can kind of play such a big role in that. So how can the young people, I mean, we have a lot of youths here sitting in our studio, and I'm sure a lot more watching at home. What can they do to kind of jump into the wagon here, jump into the process of cultural preservation?
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a lot that youth can do. I mean, youth is going to be the governing body of this country and of the rest of the world, and as soon as they continue growing, and so they should try to inform themselves, try to be able to inform, to understand what these sites mean to the different countries, how they contribute, what does biodiversity mean, what can they do in terms of protecting this biodiversity, what can they do in terms of protecting culture, reliving culture. To tell you the truth, this is a country where I sometimes can see a youth watching a festival and watching the whole festival and enjoying it. You don't see that very much in other countries nowadays, you know. And I think that's something that we need to try to continue to extend, that it doesn't get lost. I think youth needs to collaborate in keeping the country clean and make sure that they are an example of picking up and deleting all sorts of garbage and potential pollution. That is one of the areas where I would invite them to mostly try to contribute. Because when you do that, you already become a protector of whatever you're cleaning up and whatever you're not polluting. So that's very important.
Well, thank you very much, Catherine, for joining us here today and sharing your stories with us. And that was it for our edition of Talk Vietnam today. Our guest was Ms. Catherine Mullen. She's the representative of UNESCO to Vietnam. We hope you enjoyed the session, and we'll talk more next time here on Talk Vietnam.